How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video and another deck profile by me here at ScrubGames. And today, as you see by the thumbnail and the title and stuff, we're going over my Frieza Burn list. So, Frieza Burn is the name I've changed my version of the Frieza Prison deck to, because it's not really prison anymore. Because if you look back at when it was first released, it was more like a prison deck because of the fact that the aim was to get the turn 5, drop down your big 8-drop Frieza, which had the effect where if you're like permanent, where if your opponent wanted to play a battle card, they need to crit 4 life, and you would get another 4 life, drop that, so they wouldn't be able to play battle cards for the rest of the game, because they can't, if they do anything, they crit. If they play anything, they crit themselves and kill themselves. And over the sets, like as the years have gone on, we've slowly started getting more things that can remove battle cards from the board, either by battle cards themselves or by other skills or by leaders and stuff. And without barrier, or even with barrier, because we're getting a lot more barrier removal, it's harder to make that 8-drop stick because every deck's got removal in a sense. So since that main game plan is slowly died off and is not really viable, I've gone to one of the other things Red can do very well, which is and it's kind of one of its identities is burn. So without further ado, we get into the leader, then the list, and I'll go over the turn by turn play as usual. So start with the leader. It's one of those leaders like we got started getting from I think it's set 5 we started getting ones from, where it's got a deck building restriction. So on the front side, it's got a permanent where you can include battle cards in your deck that have an energy cost of 3 or less. So that means up until recently, when we got the Anri box support to support this leader, you could not play a super combo. So it was the only deck in the game, or a leader in the game, that had no access to a super combo, as far as I'm aware from my memory. So it means that like there's no early turn play with battle cards and things like that, so no cantrips like most other decks do. It's just like it's had a theme where it was more like using extra cards to defend yourself and do stuff, and then an 8-drop was the big play for the deck. And then on the activate main, it's got a once per turn so you can gain advantage, where you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you choose one red extra card among them, and add to your hand and shuffle your deck. So yeah, just every turn. Didn't need the attack, which is quite good, so you didn't need to swing at your opponent, give them advantage, or give them resources, or trigger them if they didn't have a self-awakening. You just look at top 5, activate main, look at top 5, grab an extra card, and the extra cards were there to just help you defend yourself, support yourself, and do all sorts of things. And its awaken is the more defensive awakening, where when you life to 4 or less, you just draw 2 and not flip over. So it's you got a nice bit about drawing, and yeah, it wasn't too bad when you got under 4. And normally you wait for your turn, even now you wait for your turn to be able to awaken, so you can get activate man, flip it over, and then get the other side's effect. And then when you do flip over, you now have an activate main and an auto. The activate main being the draw, where just once per turn, draw a card. So still no need to interact with your opponent, no need to attack at them to get the draw, just once per turn, draw a card, which is really nice. And it's got another auto which we don't really use, which is when your opponent declares an attack with a battle card, you can choose one red Frieza army card in your hand and discard it, and if you do, negate the attack and negate the skill for duration of the turn. So like once I think it was once a turn, and so you had a one-off auto, auto where you can just defend against a battle card attack, which is quite nice. But that's not something we use in this deck, so we no longer really use the Frieza army cards. But that's it for the leader. Now go on to the deck. It's just a red deck. There's no ever card. Well, I think there is one non-red deck card, but it's not something you ever charge or anything like that. It's mainly just a mono red deck designed with the goal of burning down your opponent, get them down to 4, and then finish them off. So to gain that extra advantage in this turn and your turn 2 play, because there's no real one-turn play in this deck, we start off with a Frost for the Clan. So this leader has got support in at least 2 out of the 3 anniversary boxes you've got since Bandai started releasing anniversary boxes, which are great products. If you anytime there's one out in a year, I would recommend you go and get one. There's great value to get. A load of brand new cards to support older archetypes, and also some new cards with a nice box design, and most of the time some fantastic looking sleeves. So Frost for the clan is the Unison for the Unison made for the leader, because it's a 2 specified cost 15k with blocker and 2 marker skills. Both of them are reminiscent to the leader's skill, in a sense, where the +1 is an activate main, and almost like a leader. If your leader card is a red Frieza BR card, so it only supports this leader currently, you may look at up to top 4 cards of your deck, add up to 1 mono red extra card among them to your hand and shuffle your deck. So basically the same as your lead, but it's got to be mono red, and as well as that, you only look at top 4 instead of top 5. So essentially, with this down on turn 2, you're getting 2 searches a turn, which is you're getting 2 extra cards a turn, hopefully, because it's unlikely to whiff given how many extra cards are in the deck. Inverts -2 was a nice one where there's like a little loop, kind of a loop involved, where if your leaded card is Frieza BR, if your leaded card is a red Frieza BR card, add up to 2 mono red extra cards from your drop area to your hand. So instead of looking at the top 4 to get 1, by minusing 2, you get 2 from drop, which is really nice and really handy to do. Recycle those once you used. And please note as well, this deck is updated to Sex 16, so why it's not used yet is designed to be used with cards from there, because there are some nice additions to help this deck that I feel from that set. And then we have our other Unison we have in the deck, which is to help our burn strategy, which is King Piccolo Giant 4. So this is one that came out in Draft Box 3, well, the new and improved Draft Box 3, not the old ones, whereas there is no new cards in it apart from leaders. This is a free specified cost of 19k, and this is one we only play 3 copies of this because you want to play it later on. Burn, we play 3 copies, so if you ever need one to put under it, you can find it. Except 2, you just got to hope you draw both, but it's free. You can still have that chance of putting a card under it if you need an extra marker. Now it's got critical and dual attack, means it can help push pressure down, because most of the time when your opponent's being attacked by a critical, most of the time their first response is to try and out combo it, and if you're putting a lot behind, they're not going to get the card either way. Like, they're either going to not get the card from attacking if it attacks at life, or they're going to spend cards from the hand to try and out combo this attack. So critical is always like a fantastic skill in this game, and dual attack means you can pressure that twice. Now it's only got 2 minus marker skills, no +1, so that's why you need to make sure to get the full effect you need to tap at 4 for it, or 3 and then put a marker on it. And it's to use 2 different things. The first one can be helpful. I've never really used it myself, but you choose it to one of your red leader cards, and it gets plus 5,000 power until the end of your next turn. So it's like a beginning effect for minusing 2. It's rarely ever used because the deck with the extra cards have a lot of defense as it is. But it's -4 is where you want your game ending to be, because it's activate main where you pay 4 red and X, which X basically means any extra energy you want to pay. So you got a minimum pay 4 red energy, and you can pay any amount extra you want or can pay for energy wise. And then if your leader card is red, that's still the cost. You deal X damage to your opponent, so X being the extra damage you paid. So if you paid 7 energy for this effect, you deal 3 damage. And that is the way we win the game. Trying to get them down to a low life total and then finish them off with the King Piccolo. So it's sort of like a stally kind of strategy, similar to like how most of Blue is and Hatch, but this has got a win game end con. Well, win con that is basically uninteractable but harder to pull off than most other ones. And that is it for the Unison. So on the battle cards, we have a super combo that we got, so more anniversary support. As I said, this got supported by these 2 of the 3 anniversary boxes we received over the years. And this one gives us access to an actual super combo. So it's not like the standard super combo where you get the draw to replace itself. It's just the standard 0 cost 10k to help with the deck, but it does have also it can be useful. Now it does also have a permanent where if this card this card would leave your combo area, you move from the game instead. So that means if your opponent has any of that, some stuff we used to have in the beginning of the game where you bounce their combo pieces back to hand, this would actually get removed from the game instead. and it also has a limit 1 condition. So limit 1 meaning you can only activate this effect once across all copies of the card for the turn. And it's if your leader card is a red Frieza BR card, so it only works with this leader at the moment. Your life is at 3 or less, you have to be at 3 or less life for the trigger, and it's got to be your opponent's turn. When this card is used in a combo from your hand, the next time you would activate a mono red extra card with an individual energy cost of 3 or less for this turn, which is basically mostly all your extra cards, you reduce the energy cost by 1 red. So that's 1 red specified cost and also 1 cost itself. So not just removing specified cost like we got with the Mega Frieza, it reduces the actual cost as well. So essentially it makes a 1 cost a 0, a 2 cost a 1 cost, and a 3 cost a 2 cost. But mainly what it's going to do is make any of your extra cards that you would actually pay energy for 0 for once a turn, which is good. And then we have some defense in Topo, Righteous Aid being the negate. So I know most people know what this deck does, but if anybody who's watching who's new to the game or is unfamiliar with red, it's a 4 cost 20k. It's got a counter-attack effect where you choose one card in your hand and discard it, and then negate the attack and play this card. It's got a permanent where you're not going to be paying 4 if it's your opponent's turn, because during your opponent's turn it reduces the energy cost in your hand by 2, so it becomes a 2 cost negate. And then it's also as if it's your opponent's turn is the condition. When you play this card, for the duration of the turn, your opponent can't attack unless they choose 2 cards in their hands and place them in the drop area each time. So it means anytime they want to attack with any card, be it Unison, Leader, or Battle card, they've got the 2 cards each time. And we only pay 2 of this at the moment. You can up it to 3 if you feel like you need more defense, and this is good for your meta. But currently, I'm only using 2. Because it's not searchable, and there are some other cards that help defend easier as well. And this is more for like to have copies for if your opponent goes wide with little weenies. And then we have a Union Fusion kind of engine and like a play for this deck, which is 3 SSB Vegeta at full power, 3 SSB Son Goku at full power, 3 Gogeta Fusion of the Gods, and as well as that, 3 SSB Gogeta Technique Unchained. So, most of the time the 5-drop Goku and Vegeta aren't going to be played. It's not often they're played. Well, the Vegeta is sometimes played, the Goku is rarely ever, because they're going to be used as Union Fusions fodder for Gogeta Fusion and Gods. But I'll just go over what their effects are, just in case you do decide to play them, because they can be played the later the game goes on. They both have deflect, and Vegeta has double strike, while Goku has dual attack and blocker. They both have a permanent where this card can't be played with any can't be played unless it's with a evolve skill. So any non-evolve skill can't play it. And Goku also has a permanent where this card can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode. So helpful if your opponent has a battle card in active mode that you want to get rid of. The Goku can help you attack over it. Now Vegeta's auto skills are, because he has 2, and like with Goku's isn't playable in the deck, so I'm not going to bother going over that. Vegeta's is, if this card is in rest mode, when one of your opponent's battle cards is played or attacks, you may choose that card and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. So that helps a lot. So once you drop this and have it in rest mode, anytime your opponent plays a battle card, minus 10k, as long as it doesn't have a barrier. If your opponent attacks with one, minus 10k, so it helps defend a lot easier against battle cards when you drop it. Then it has an helpful auto where getting rid of it, apart from the leader Unison's attack, is going to be difficult, because it basically states, when this card is removed from your battle area by your opponent's skill, place 1 card from your opponent's life in their drop area. So essentially, if your opponent tries to get rid of this card by skills, any skills, as long as they're your opponent's, they're going to crit a life, which adds to the burn aspect, because it means you're placing down a battle card which is hard to get rid of, and if they try to do it the easy way, that's not attacking, then they're going to get punished for it. Now with the Gogeta ones, we have Gogeta 5, which is Fusion of the Gods. It has deflect, so all the 5-drops have deflect, so it means basically counterplays aren't going to do anything to them, but any autos will if they come down. And its Union Fusion cost is for 3 red energy. You draw 2 cards using a red Son Goku BR and a red Vegeta BR. and it also has a permanent, which is handy, where this card can't be KO'd, which is nice. It can still be warped, it can still be bounced, it can be still be spun, it can still be removed from the game, it can still be sent as well to the drop. So you just can't be KO'd, but all the other kind of ways to remove things still work on it. And it also is, if your leader card is red, which it is, when this card is played, you use one of your red Unison cards, add a marker to it, and then choose all your opponent's battle cards, and they get minus 15k power for the turn. So it's really handy for doing this as a turn 3 play, because you can give your Frost an extra marker, so it's more healthy, and also like wipe your opponent's board, like minus 15k your entire opponent's board, apart from through barrier. And then what you're going to do after that is you drop this SSB Gogeta unique technique unchained on it afterwards, because it's a double strike, 35k. It has its EX Evolve skill, so it has no Union Fusion skill, just EX Evolve 1, where you play it on top of a mono red Gogeta BR card when energy goes to 5, and that's for free. So once you play the Gogeta, you evolve onto this afterwards. But do note that it has a walkover, its auto limit. It also has the same permanent where it can't be KO'd, and it's got two autos. The first one is when this card is played. Sorry, when you evolve into this card, you choose it to one of your opponent's one of your red Unison cards, add up 2 markers to it, and you can't play battle cards for the turn. So essentially, if you want to do anything with any other battle cards, which is not often you want to do, it doesn't really affect you that much. You play them before, but essentially you're going to be playing the 5-drop with your Union Fusion skill, give your Unison a marker, and minus 15k your opponent's board, then evolve straight into this afterwards, giving your Unison another 2 markers, so you're giving it 3 additional markers for the turn, this turn, as well as +1ing if you want a +1, and then cut yourself off of battle cards for the turn, which doesn't affect you. But the good thing about this card, and one of the reasons why I play it, is this ever auto, where when this card or one of your opponent's cards attacks, you can choose one of your opponent's cards, and it gets minus 20k power for the battle if you do negate your skill for the turn. So what that means is when this card attacks, you minus 20k one of your opponent's either battle cards, Unison, or leader for the turn, or for the battle. So it can help you remove markers off Unisons, clear battle cards by putting their power to 0, or even put a big difference between your opponent's leader by swinging for 35k double strike and minus it by 20k, so your opponent's leader is a minus 5k, while you're a 35k double strike, which is like 40k difference that your opponent's got to combo out unless they have to negate. And there is a way to kind of protect this to make it easier to stay on board, given all the removal, but we'll go over that in a sec when we come to the extra card that helps that. And then we have the secret rare for the deck being SSB Vegeta Unbridled Power. So this is one of the secret rares in set 16, and I feel it's probably one of the better ones to use. Like, there's quite a lot of good secret rares to use for red if they can survive the time. Most of the red secret rares are more for, are best used for decks that can survive the turn, like can drag it out, because they've got like a quite hefty cost to play them cheaper than their printed cost. So because of that, there are some black secret rares that take the place of more aggro decks like Kai, Zeno and stuff like that. But for this deck, where it's the burn strategy and we can stall quite easily enough to the later turns, I've gone for SSB Vegeta Unbridled Power, because if it helps with the deck's burn, and you can get to that point where you can drop this. So it has dual attack. It only if you're sparking 25, which means you only need 25 cards in your drop area, which is not that bad and easy enough to do in this deck. When it gets to the later game, so you can help hit harder. It also has deflect, meaning counter players aren't going to stop this, which is fantastic for a secret rare. And triple strike as well, meaning if it connects, it does 3 damage instead of 1. Then it's got 2 activate mains. The first one is how you play it cheaper, by paying 4 red. You play this card from your hand, then you choose one of your opponent's leader cards, and it gets minus 5k power for the turn, which means your opponent's leader is a little bit weaker to make your attacks do more or cost more cards to combo out of. And then it's really handy activate main, which is a nice board wipe, is remove this card from the game, so you can never get it back after that. Choose all your opponent's battle cards and using cards ignoring barrier, place them in your owner's drop area, then place 1 card from your opponent's life in your drop area. So that's really good, because you essentially swing for a 40k triple strike, and make twice if you can fulfill the 25k. The 25 sparking, and then after that, you essentially just use the activate main, choose your opponent's Unison and all the battle cards on board, no barrier, send them to the warp. So if they can't be KO'd like Gogeta here, you can still send them, or cards that say can't be KO'd or warped or something like that. You can always just send, so it gets around that. And also, not only that, but you crit one of your opponent's life as well. So if you get your opponent down to 1, if you can get your opponent down to 1 and then survive to the next turn, you can then drop this and GG. And then we have the extra cards, and this is the card which allows your SSB Gogeta chain, or your Gogeta chain, to survive a lot easier, because it's 0 cost, activate main, choose all red staying cards in your battle area, they gain barrier until the end of your opponent's next turn. So essentially what that means is it makes your Gogeta chain a lot harder to remove, because not only can the cards be KO'd, so any effect that can KO through barrier can't KO it, and also can't be KO'd means it can't be KO'd by battle or by skills, which is fantastic. So you can have it in rest and they can run over it and it won't KO it. And but by giving it barrier, it means that your opponent, unless the effect ignores barrier, it's not going to do anything to it. And even if it ignores barrier, it needs to do anything that's not KOing to get rid of it, which is not too many cards that help deal with that. And also, you can kind of loop getting this back constantly by if you've got Frost, use the get the Unison, get the Gogeta chain out, use strategies, give it a barrier, then use Frost to grab back from your drop, along with a never extra card, so you can do it again next turn and keep the chain alive. And not only that, we also have Cab's Awakening. So this is what we used back before we had a super combo, to have that combo power to help us survive more attacks, because it's just a activate battle, 0 cost as well. Choose up to 1 of your red cards, it gains 6,000 power for the duration of the battle. So this is nice because sometimes if your opponent combos 5k over your card's base, or leader card's base or a battle card's base, you normally have to combo either 2 5ks or a 10k, and that's costing you a 10k, which you might want to use on every attack, whereas Cab Awakening covers that in 1 card as well, as just like a super combo would. So when your opponent's going at you and doing 5k more than yours, Cab's Awakening just answers that and saves you. Then we got 4 Wolfang Fists. So because we're trying to make sure we establish the Unison turn 2, we want to try and keep it there so we can keep using the activate main +1 to keep gaining cards to keep that advantage going. So we're getting 2 cards a turn. And Wolfang Fist is a very good card to help that, because it's free when you got a Unison because of its permanent, where if you have a red Unison card in play, you can activate it without paying the entry cost. And its counterattack skill is if your leader card is mono red, you choose it to 1 attacking battle card or leader card, ignoring barrier, and it gets minus 15k power for the turn, which is great. So when your opponent attacks, if you're attacking it with a leader, minus it down to 15, so you're getting got a combo 15k to meet the Unison, or just their 15k short on their 15k less on their attack. And sometimes in combination with the Gogeta, you can take out huge battle cards using Wolfang Fist with the Gogeta as well. Then we've got 2 Violent Rays. So this is one of the best, maybe one of the best red negates in the game, because it's got that utility. And since a lot of the time nowadays decks are playing things that are bigger, that cost more than their current energy, very cheap, and this helps you hold that off for a turn. Because in a counter attack, if your leader card is red, negate the attack, and then you choose 1 card in your hand and discard it, and if you do, you choose 1 or 2 effects. You either make it so your opponent can't attack with battle cards 20k that have 20k power or more for the turn, or your opponent can't attack with Unison cards with 20k power or more for the turn. So it really helps you when you get that choice, which is really nice. And as I said, any extra card in here, it can be grabbed back from the drop after using. So some cards you want to see more copies of to help you, or that could be helpful and cheap, like Cab's Awakening, Wolfang Fist could be free, same with Strategy Unit 7. Or there's cards where you want to see them, but you want to see too many of them, because they have cost energy or require something else to set up. And if you do use them, you can get them back using Frost. So Frost is like a very versatile Unison in this deck. And then we've got free paralysis technique. So this is a 1-cost counter attack where you negate the attack, and if your leader card is a red Frieza's army card, which is as is, you choose your opponent's leader card and all their battle cards, and they get minus 5k power for the turn. So this is nice and helpful for if your opponents goes wide. You can negate the first attack with this, and it minus all battle cards and their leader by 5k as long as they don't have barrier. You play 3 of this because this is a very handy negate, and if you play multiple after a time, it makes your opponent's board weaker and weaker. Then we have one of the new cards from set 16, so the second new card we're playing from set 16, and it's Realm of the Gods Ultra Instinct. So in set 16, every colour got one of these Realm of the God cards. They all do certain kind of things, and they're kind of similar to the ISRs back in set 9. And I'm running 3 of this over the Frieza's Death Ball, the ISR, because this can replace itself. So with the Frieza's Death Ball, that allowed you to put between a battle card, as long as it doesn't have a barrier or a leader card, 25k power difference, which is really handy for 1 energy, but it costs a card in hand. And to keep efficiency up, and given the utility of this card, I decided to switch it out for this and give this a try instead, and it was actually really nice and really helpful. So basically what it does is activate battle for 1 cost. If your leader card and all your energy are red, which is something that's going to happen for our deck, choose up to 1 of your cards and it gains 10k power for the battle. Then you choose 1 or 2 effects. So if it's your turn, you choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle card with an energy cost greater than their current energy, and it gets minus 30k power for the turn. So if your opponent's got something bigger than that, costs more than their current energy, you can minus 30k it. But if it's your opponent's turn, you draw a card, then choose up to 1 of your cards, it gains 5000 power for the battle. So one of the big differences here is, unlike the ISR, this can work on Unisons. So that's one thing the ISR only allowed you to use it on leader card or battle cards, whereas this allows you to use it on Unisons. Because at the time, Unisons didn't exist during set 9, where now they do, and this card affects those. And this almost acts like the blue ISR for the Goku's Kamehameha, where it gives a 15k boost for the battle, and also draws you a card, which is really handy. And remember as well, any of these 1 costs like Realm of the Gods, Paralysis Technique, and Abundant Rays can be played for free after using a King Cold Super Combo when you're at 3 or less life, which is really handy. So being able to play this for free while super comboing, and being able to play this for free is fantastic as well. And then we have onto our 2 cost and more ones. So we're playing 2 Omen of Awakening. So this is a handy card because it allows you to stop some decent things, because what it does is a 2 cost counterplay with 1 red specific energy cost. If your leader card is red and you choose 1 card in your life and place it in your drop area, if the battle card being played has 20k power or less, basically you place it in your opponent's drop area instead of being played. But you're never going to be paying for 2 for this, because thanks to Frost for the Clan being a fantastic Unison that you're going to try and establish turn 2. If you have a red Unison card with a specified cost of 2 in play, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. So once you establish the Frost and keep it there, this becomes a 1 cost extra card, to basically 1 cost counterplay to stop anything 20k or less that's being played by your opponent. And even though you have to crit life, that's not too bad, because it's a helpful form of awakening as well if need be. Because where you don't have any self awakening in the deck, being able to crit yourself alive can help you get down to 4, and sacking a life to stop something crucial being played that's 20k or less is very handy. Like if you're attacking with your opponent and drop their own topo, or they're trying to drop an annoying card that doesn't have deflect, stopping it with this for 1 energy is fantastic. And also, since it goes down to 1 if you've got a Frost for the Clan, it can then be played for free if you King Cold in that turn. To be able to defensively King Cold while having Frost for the Clan on board, you can set that and being at 3 energy, or 3 life, sorry. You can then have Omen Awakening for free to stop something from you coming down, which is nice. And then we have the other negate we have for the deck, being testing the opposition. Now we only run 2 copies of this because, as I said, there's no self-awakening in the deck, and this has a requirement for when it can be played for free. because you don't really want to pay energy for anything unless it's relevant, like the Unison, Secret Rare, or Cheetah Chain, or Toppo if you need be. So basically, what this does is one of those lines of counter attacks that have slowly power crept the sparking ones we had from set 5. Because basically what it does, it negates 2 attacks. Because if your leader card is mono red, you negate the attack, and then you play 1 Subman token, and the token gains blocker for the turn. And the token has 5k power, 5k combo, and a 0 combo cost. So the nice thing about that is you can get the attack with this, play the token, the attack attacks someone else. You can then block with the token to defend 2 attacks in total. And the reason why I say you're not going to be paying the energy cost for it is because it is permanent, where if your life's at 5 or less, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand by adding 1 card from your life instead of paying his energy cost. So that's more beneficial than the red one, because the red one, which was after image technique, did not negate the attack. So your opponent's attack is still going through. And but what it did do was give your leader a 40k boost for that battle, and minus 10k sync on the board. That's a battle card. But the other thing as well is you need sparking 5. So if your opponent if you ever come across a deck that controls your drop, or you can't get 5 in your drop, then you couldn't play that for free. Where this, you just need to get on the 5 life, and then you can play it for free. And the good thing about being at 5 life is sometimes when you get to that point and you with leaders that awaken at certain life totals, like Frieza's example for 4, sometimes your opponent will try to go in when you're at 5 life with a double strike or triple strike or anything to put you from 5 to 3, so you've got even less life than waking at 4. And the great thing with this is you can negate that attack when you get to 5, it's trying to put you from 5 to 3, and then have a token blocker and then be able to awaken. And then the last card of the deck is Cease to Exist. So as I keep saying in every single deck profile, or mostly every video I do, every deck needs barrier removal. Doesn't matter if it warps the card, reduces the power, KOs the card, whatever, you need to have cards that deal with barrier, because if you don't, you're going to struggle against certain colours, especially yellow as well, because yellow is a good example of why. Because they have cards like the Yellow Lord Slug and the Goku Absolute Annihilation, which both have barrier and put a lot of annoyance on you by taxing you for certain things, like Slug makes it so while it's on board in rest mode and you've got another battle card in play, you can't draw outside your leader. So it means it's shut off Frost, searching it's off the draw from Union Fusion and things like that, which you don't want to do. You want to make sure that doesn't restrict you, and especially against yellow as well. There's the, as I just said, Absolute Annihilation, which makes it so if you want to play an extra card, you have to pay one extra energy to be able to play that extra card. So it means any of these free ones at 0 cost, then you need to pay 1 energy to get you trigger that. So we've got Cease to Exist in here as our barrier removal, which is a permanent, where you can activate the Activate Battle skill without paying its energy cost. And the Activate Battle skill is almost like a Cabba's Awakening, where you can choose one of your leader cards or battle cards, and it gets 5k power for the battle. So not as great as Cabba's Awakening, but still makes it so it's not always dead. So like no extra card really is in this deck is dead. It's got a function, and a useful function, and it's more its Activate Main, which we're including for 2 copies for, which is if your leader card is red, that's the requirements. You choose choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and they both get minus 25k power for the turn. So this allows you to deal with those cards I just mentioned, and really most things through barrier. This gets rid of them. And last thing is, red has one of the best ways to deal with things that are indestructible, because minusing power, if you get it to 0, it then makes the card removed by game mechanic, where indestructible basically can't be removed from the battle area, or can't be moved by any skills or anything. But if you reduce its power to 0, it then ends up dying due to game mechanics, because it can't be at 0. And that is the deck. You can also add Fu Shrouding Mystery if you wanted to. What I would do for that is
move Wolfang Fist down to 3, because you can, as I said, you can recycle it from the drop with your Frost -2 to add the Fu. So you've got that way to turn 6, drop that to, once you've got your Gogeta chain, to kind of give you a lot of pressure to finish your opponent off. And like the only card that really hurts Fu that much is blue in general, and just a little maybe yellow as well. But most of your cards aren't affected by counter players due to being deflect, and Fu helps shut off your opponent's entire turn for your turn and their next turn. So as I said, with the turn progression for this deck, you've got no real turn 1 play. It's more just trying to see if you can mulligan. For things you want mulligan for are Frost for the Clan and any of the Vegeta, Goku, and Gogeta pieces. So you want to try and look in your hand for the Frost Unison and any of your Gogeta chain, because you don't have to worry about trying to find strategies. Your leader and Frost can do that for like once you hit turn 2, every turn twice. Look at the top certain amount of your deck to try and see if you can find it and dig for it. And then on turn 2, you want to establish Frost. So you want to turn 1 discharge, use your leader's effect. Turn 2, use Frost and use your leader and Frost effect to look at top 5 and then 4 to grab extra cards. And then turn 3, if you can assemble the pieces, you want to drop Gogeta using its Union Fusion to draw 2 cards, warp your opponent's by 15, try to see if you can dig into Gogeta. But before you do that, make sure to use your leader and Frost effect to thin your deck a bit. And then drop the Gogeta, try and evolve into Gogeta, and hopefully by then you found one of your strategies, and then use the strategy to protect the Gogeta. And once that turns over, you then, from then on, have 4 energy that just basically defend until you can get your secret rare or Fu, if you're including Fu, to just keep dropping multiple chains and essentially just establish big bodies that are Saiyans, protect them with strategy universe 7, giving them barrier, and just keep piling on pressure to your opponent, and you've got all these extra cards to defend yourself, and hopefully finish him off with the King Vegeta, King Piccolo, Giant Force, burning him for the game. That is it for my profile on Frieza Burn. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to like the video if you did. Comment down below if there's any questions you have or anything I didn't go over correctly or very well, and answer them as best I can in the comments. And lastly, feel free to subscribe. It helps me get to my goal of 1,000 subs, which I'm currently a quarter of the way there, and also keeps you updated with my videos as when they drop, especially if you're subscribed and you keep the notification bell. It gives you a little alert when my videos drop. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching, much appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.